Well, another weekend has come and gone in the world of motorsports, and we're going to start it like we do every time with Formula One at the Italian GP in Monza, where finally y'all have no idea how long I've been waiting to use that. But yeah, the GOAT Max Verstappen finally gets another win over Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, and there was a little bit of controversy with those two during this race. Basically, in layman's terms, for those of us who don't watch Formula One on the regular, there were some team owner shenanigans just because Norris had a bad pit stop, and Piastri's his teammate, and he was told to let Norris get back ahead of him, and yada yada yada, making up for pit crew problems. Like, that's just how racing goes sometimes. Either your pit crew does it right and you win, or sometimes they have a mishap and you lose positions. That's just how racing goes, but the Formula One's too pedantic for stuff like that. But it doesn't matter because Max won the race, and that's all we need to worry about. Now we're going back to NASCAR. We're at Gateway this weekend, and Saturday night, we got the Xfinity Series. Now, this is their regular season finale. I know it's been a couple weeks since I mentioned it was, and now it's really here. And Connor Zilisch, fastest guy all year, sits it on pole to absolutely nobody's surprise, alongside the 48 car of Nick Sanchez, who's really started to find some speed this season. I think he's got another win coming, but we'll see. So stage one, nothing too much to write home about. Connor Zilisch leads flag to flag in the entire stage. Green flag the whole way. Nice clean racing, but very hard. And he chalks up another playoff points going into the playoffs starting next weekend. But after pit stops, his teammate Carson Voppel, man, I have a hard time saying that name, he loses his motor in the pits right after the crew drops the jack stand. And they never figured out why the motor just decided to let go, but then the car just never started again after that. So very odd, but very concerning moment for all the JRM teams involved. There was something they had to keep in the back of their minds the rest of the night. At the beginning of stage two, we got a new leader in William Sawalich. He leads at the beginning of the stage, but he is quickly overtaken by the 7 car of Justin Allgaier. And coming to the end of the stage, Eric Almirola in the 19 for Joe Gibbs Racing closes in on Allgaier, and the pair do start leaning on each other for a brief battle here. This was actually a very physical weekend, and there was a lot of this in the Cup Series too, of two guys just slamming each other like crazy just to get an edge on front, because track position means everything here. But after a brief battle, the 7 car hangs on for his 10th stage win of the season, and he is one ahead in that category now over Zilisch. The 88 pit crew gets their car back up front for the stage 3 restart, and this is where the night gets really exciting. Connor leads on the restart, but the entire field behind them is in a traffic jam, and it takes a while for anybody to get sorted away. Connor does manage to pull away, and he starts taking the laps down until Jeb Burton loses a right front tire off turn 2 and puts his own playoff hopes in deep jeopardy tonight if there's a new winner. On the restart, Zilisch duels again with Eric Almirola, but the 88 takes it once more, and it's their hard fights for second on back until Jeb's cousin, Harrison Burton, spins to bring out the yellow once more. He will put another restart, and Jesse Love in the 2 car is now going to attempt to challenge Connor Zilisch for the lead, but before he gets a chance to do that, the field just completely stacks up and crashes on the restart before they even get to turn 1. So it is a do-over for the 2 car. And it amounts to absolutely nothing because Connor takes the lead on the next restart, but the battle for second does stay in his mirror until there's a debris caution, and Connor has to defend once again. But the 88 car is nothing if not persistent, and he continues his restart dominance from the entire season, this time finishing it off for his 9th win of the season over William Sawalich and Christian Eckes, and he has locked up the regular season championship. And he's going to have quite the full head of steam heading into Bristol next week, which is good because it is Bristol, baby. But that is it for the Xfinity Series. And Sunday, we've got the Cup Series doing their own daytime event. And Denny Hamlin, the 11 car, is taking the Toyota Speed from last week and continuing it in the best way possible, putting his car on pole alongside Kyle Larson in the 5. On the start, the 11 car does take the lead early on, but Kyle Larson, using the good old high side, rolls that top lane and takes the lead away from Hamlin after only a few laps. And Larson, he leads all the way up until lap 27 when the other Kyle Busch that is, loses it off turn 2 and brings out the yellow. On the restart, we've got Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe, last week's winner, leading the way with a 19, showing the way until Josh Berry loses it in turn 2 off the nose of Chase Elliott. Unfortunately for Berry, his left front is completely dangling off his car, and that is his day done. That is the first time in, I had to look it up, but it was like 40 something years that the 21 team have finished in last place back-to-back races. Super unfortunate to start their playoffs in. They are in a must-win situation next week at Bristol. It's not impossible. The Wood Brothers have won a race at Bristol before with Elliott Sadler back in 2001. So it's not impossible, but it's definitely an uphill climb for that 21 car next weekend. Chase Briscoe leads on the restart, but Kyle Larson is powering his way up back to the 19 car, and the two fight hard for the stage win in the closing laps, but the 19 ultimately takes it, padding his playoff points that he had gained last week at Darlington, and is looking to continue to be a threat in the round of 12. Stage number 2, Kyle Larson resumes the race lead, but we've got some new faces up front, including Bubba Wallace, William Byron, Chase Elliott, finally some good news from that kid, and Zane Smith in the Front Road Motorsports 38 car. Throughout stage 2, we've got some more single car incidents that pepper the stage, but the big moment happens when Kyle Larson just flat out dumps Ryan Blaney. It looks like Larson got a little bit loose on the bottom line, but for all intents and purposes, I'm not saying this is intentional, but I mean, it's Kyle Larson. He should be able to save that. But this led to quite a few hurt feelings and some very, very bad radio coverage that I will not be sharing here. But after all that got sorted out, we got Brad Keselowski and Bubba Wallace up front dueling in a one-lap shootout for the stage win. And Brad makes a wide block on the pack from behind on the outside, but that allows Bubba Wallace to just scoop past on the inside to win the stage. And Bubba continues to lead into stage 3, this time alongside Joey Logano, until the very next restart when Bubba Wallace misses a shift and he just gets absolutely dumpstered by Logano and eventually Denny Hamlin, who steals the lead right as SVG loses it and puts it into the outside wall in turn 3, bringing out the caution once more. SVG, he was actually having a really good race so far. A lot of good moves on the restarts especially. Unfortunately, this has put him in a bit of a hole, and he will go to Bristol next week 15 points out of the cutoff line. It's going to be a very difficult night for him next weekend, but that's not an impossible point total to make up, and he's a really good driver, championship caliber any other day of the week, so we'll see how things go. But that is his day essentially done as well. After the restart, it runs green with Hamlin out front until green flag pit stops begin with about 45 laps to go. But in the middle of this pit cycle, as it always does inevitably, there is a caution right in the middle of it. And Denny Hamlin had already pitted and he had gotten around the leader, so he stays out and assumes the race lead alongside Brad Keselowski. The problem for Keselowski is he had stayed out and did not pit. So he is up front with old tires alongside Hamlin, who's got fairly new tires. And you can see the discrepancy on the restart where Keselowski just gets completely swallowed by the entire pack. And that is his chance to win done. I don't even think he finished in the top 10 at the end of it. But Denny Hamlin puts that 11 car up front, and he pretty much leads it the rest of the way. And he wins the race ahead of his teammate, Chase Briscoe. Good solid effort for the winner from last week. And Chase Elliott finishing in third place this week. Very much needed for the 9 team. They need some good momentum going into next week because it has been a terrible season for Elliott. The win is obviously the second straight for Joe Gibbs Racing, and this is Toyota's 200th win in the Cup Series. They've been in the sport since 2008, and it's definitely been a good run for them. Dodge is obviously coming back in the Truck Series next year. There was some pretty interesting news in that field the last couple weeks, so it's good to see some other manufacturers starting to come back in as well. But Toyota, there are times when they just got that speed, and it's really tough to beat them week in and week out. And obviously in post-race interviews, Hamlin continues playing the heel to the many positive, joyous sounds from the fan base. Did you also know today's opposite day? And as well as some other discussions that were had on pit road between several drivers, including Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson. What was exactly said, we may never know, but we do know they were not happy about it. And that's it from Gateway. A pretty short race weekend. There was only the 3 races to cover. Next week, it is all NASCAR. No Formula 1 to worry about, no open wheels of any kind, actually. And all 4 series are going to be at the Bristol Motor Speedway. And it's going to be a fun one, because we got the ARCA series with Mr. Cletus McFarland making his return. And ARCA superstar Brandon Butterbean Queen is going to be making his Xfinity Series debut on Friday night. So it's going to be a ton of fun to watch. Cup Series is going to be Saturday night. You got to love Bristol. That's what Bristol is, baby. But until then, y'all have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will catch y'all next time. Have a good week.